Hello and welcome to
Absolute Game of
Nerd! I'm JP and that's Rohan, and we are your non-geek, non-nerd hosts. And today we have Sophie from Jackpot Comic Talks. And Rohan, if you could please properly introduce her.
Hi. So we have Sophie here, as JP said. We actually met her for the first time today, but we know of Sophie through a couple of our friends from our text thread that have gotten to know her, and they were like, when I was asking people, hey, who should we get on here to talk to, and Sophie was one of the top choices that a number of those guys said. And also, I was counting before, Sophie, I think you are. So this is episode 65. I think they're the fourth female we've had. Yeah, because we had Rachel, Bianca, and then Mindy, and now you.
Nice.
So welcome on. Thanks for coming on. How you doing
thanks
today?
for having me. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a very busy day, but it's gone by fast. And I was excited for the interview all day, so I'm happy I'm finally able to sit down and do it.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to hear that. Awesome. So we always talk about the first question we always start with is, what is your origin story? So when it comes to the hobby, take us back. How did it all start?
Yeah, so I haven't been collecting for that long. It's only been almost 2 years now, but I've been reading comics my entire life. My dad was always a very big fan and introduced me to them at a very young age. And comics are sometimes regarded as more of like a guy thing, and both my parents wanted me to completely disregard that and be like, if you like it, you get into the hobby, do what you like and everything. So I was like, all right, let's go. And so I read, I was very into Marvel as a kid. I absolutely loved it. I loved Spider-Man and stuff like that. And then I remember when the Avengers movies and the solo movies for Marvel started coming out, and I got very into those. And then for a little while switched into DC. I started reading more of like some of like the darker stuff that DC has. I remember reading Hush for the very first time, Black Mirror. There was a lot of Kingdom Come and Identity Crisis. So I remember reading all of those, and I absolutely fell in love with some of like the darker stuff that DC was doing. And then I started collecting.
Sophie, real quick, can you take us? Yeah. What age were you at when you had that shift to DC?
Oh, probably maybe like 13 or 14.
Okay.
Back then, everything previous to that had been more Marvel, especially because I was really getting into the movies and stuff. And then, probably 13 or 14, I switched over to DC for a while, started collecting actual comic books in 2022 in like June or July, and started collecting the new Teen Titans series. My family and I went to a small local Comic-Con, and I picked up the first appearance of Blackfire because my sister and I had just recently watched, I made Viv watch the Teen Titans cartoon with me that I'd loved watching like growing up and everything. I was like, you need to sit down and watch it with me. So we ended up loving it. Blackfire was one of my favorites on the show. I saw her first her first appearance in comics, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get this. And then since then, it's been just another one comic after another, collecting them all. And then quite recently, probably within the last few years, I've shifted back over into more Marvel. I'm working on the original Amazing Spider-Man run right now, trying to collect that all. That's going to be quite a challenge, but I've got a few like big keys and stuff that I'm excited about. So yeah, it's like I go back and forth between like, what's my, top one, like DC or Marvel or whatever. So I switch back and forth quite a lot, but I've just always loved, both of them in general, reading them, and then quite recently collecting them.
Now, as the collecting has started, has the reading kept up, or has it tailed off? Are you both collector and reader?
I am definitely both collector and reader. Reading has kind of gone down a little bit, but not necessarily because I've been collecting them. It's just because of work and stuff like that. So reading's gone down significantly since I was a kid. But I still do enjoy reading all of the comics I pick up. And what I try to do is like I'll get different runs or arcs at a time, and instead of reading them like one at a time as they're coming out currently, I'll just wait until I have the full series and sit down and read it. So I'm not always caught up on current comics, but a lot of the older ones I've gotten like just trade paperbacks and stuff, either bought them or got them from the library and caught up on all of the older ones.
Got it. Yeah. Now I'm curious. We just recently had Ricky from All Sorts of Words, and he talked to us about how he grew up on Marvel and then he transitioned to DC due to kind of like the maturity of content as he got older. Was your shift to DC of a similar vibe, or?
I think it was. I think I'd been reading all of the Marvel stuff for so long, and I wanted something a little bit different. So I did switch to DC, and I loved the darker vibe that they gave. And then I think like I said, I was pretty young when I started reading all of that stuff, but everyone always told me I was like very mature for my age and everything. And I was always like, yeah, I'm going to read this darker stuff. It's going to be really cool. And I'm going to be edgy and everything. And that was great. And I did enjoy them. But I know recently too, I like going back and reading all of like the fun comics that I kind of missed or glanced over. I think that's a lot of the reason I love reading Spider-Man comics, because a lot of the times it's like him, as like a high schooler and dealing with high school problems. I'm like, oh, it's so silly and fun, like wait till he's an adult and stuff like that. So I think, I really enjoyed the darker stuff that they had. But now I more enjoy the fun, lighthearted stories of it all.
Yeah, you no more need to be edgy, I guess. So you're
Exactly.
right on. So like in terms of the reading,
is Lobo a
how do
character
you
you're
balance
reading?
both back with the old stuff? Oh, yeah.
His Lobo, no, I haven't read any
Good
of
choice.
Lobo yet.
I was gonna say when
You
it
gotta
comes to
start.
reading, I may have missed
You gotta
it.
start.
Do you do both the older stuff with the trades, and then do you read any of the new stuff coming out?
I have a few of the series that are currently coming out that I've been reading. There was it was a while ago, a couple months, but there was a like 4-issue Loki miniseries that was really, really good. I read all of that. Red Goblin's been pretty good so far. I've been enjoying it. I've been collecting some of the current Amazing Spider-Man run. It's really not that great. I'm thinking about giving it up recently, but they were doing like this new thing with Mary Jane as Jackpot that I kind of wanted to read. So I've read a little bit of that, but not all of it because it's not the greatest.
Is that where the name came from? Jackpot Comic Talks?
Yes. So Mary Jane's always been like one of my absolute favorite characters. I have sometimes I struggle with having like self-confidence, and reading Mary Jane's character, she's like the most confident of them all. And I always admired her for that. I was like, she just is who she is and she's not sorry about it. And she instantly became one of my favorites. Even at, when I was first reading comics. And so I was playing around with different names. And I was like, okay, we'll go with something like MJ themed. What can I do? I've always loved her first line. It's very iconic. So I did Jackpot. I wanted to originally do Jackpot Comics, but I guess it's like the name of a comic shop, like in Las Vegas or something. And so I was like, okay, we'll avoid that. So I added the talks because, I can talk about anything and everything for forever. So I'm like, it's fitting,
Yeah, yeah, that would make sense that there's a shop in Vegas called that, I guess.
Yeah.
So you started collecting essentially around the same time JP and I got back into the hobby. What inspired you to start the collecting side of things after being a reader for so long?
I always wanted to. I always thought, collecting comics would be like the coolest hobby to have. I always loved it when people, I would say, "Oh, I'm a fan of Marvel," and they were like, "I have a comic collection." I'm like, "Wow, I really hope to have one day." And once when I started collecting, I'd had a job for a while, so I had some money to spend, and it was something that I'd always wanted to do, and I thought, let me start with one very specific goal, and that was to get all of the original New Teen Titans run. I think it ran from like 1980 to 1984, something like that. I was like, I'll get all 40 of those issues, and so that was like my first real goal. And then once I picked up like that first Blackfire appearance and then a few others, I just like fell in love with the hobby and really, really deep dived into it. I'm like surrounded by comics right now. So it's definitely something I have put my whole heart and soul into.
Oh, nice.
How are you when it comes to collecting? Are you someone that buys online? Do you go out and go to antique? Like, what are your acquisition kind of methods?
Yeah, so I've been trying a lot more to buy like in person, like seek out different comic shops and go to like shows and stuff, but it's also kind of hard because where I live, there's not like a local comic shop. The closest one to me is an hour drive away. So it's a little hard to like buy them in person. So I do a lot of buying comics online. Through eBay and Mercari and stuff for like the older stuff. And then Graham Cracker Comics, which is my local comic shop that's still an hour away. I get all of my modern stuff through them just on their website, and I get them shipped to me every month. So I kind of do a little bit of both.
Got it.
Are you buying on IG at all? Do you do any IG, Instagram buying?
Yeah, I do buy on Instagram. There's like 3 sellers, Comic Fanatic 86, Silver Age, and Kryptonian Collectibles. I buy from those 3 like a lot. Those are my like main source from Instagram.
Yeah, I actually just picked up a FF Annual 6 from Comic Fanatic. So
nice. Yeah.
So outside of Mary Jane, who are the? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming Spider-Man's. Who are your top kind of people that collect? And
let's see. I've got like Mary Jane's always been my favorite. Any cover, any appearance, I'm sure I've got it. And then Spider-Man, obviously. I've got a pretty big Batman collection. I focus more on there's a very specific like era of Kelly Jones covers that I absolutely love. Like his stuff is kind of weird. His style is a little odd, but it's kind of like got some like a gothic vibe to it. It's a little bit weird and I love it. So I collect like all of those covers. I think it was through like the Nightfall run of Batman from a while ago. So I collect a lot of that. I collect Miss Marvel with the Carol Danvers Miss Marvel. I'm like 2 issues away of completing that full series. And then anything with Carrie Kelly's Robin. She's one of my favorite Robins. I recently met Frank Miller at Fan Expo Chicago and like got a signature and everything. It was super, super fun. And, I got to talk to him about the character of Carrie, and that was just amazing. And so there's a lot of like characters that I like to collect instead of series. There's a few series that I do, but it's mostly characters. Starfire is another big character that I collect really cool covers that she's on or any of the comics that she's in.
Real quick, can we rewind? So you named a couple things that I am honestly, and JP, I don't know if you were, but are unaware of. So the first one was it Kelly Jones? Is that an artist?
Yes. Yeah. He was an artist. He did a lot of Batman covers. I think he did some of the interior artwork for some of them. I haven't read all of them. I'm mostly collecting them for the covers. His inside, his like interior artwork is not my favorite. I think he's really good at just like standalone pictures, which is great for covers. When the action shots and stuff aren't my favorite, but like his covers are just, if you ever see Batman where he's got the like super long ears and he has of like a, those are like Kelly Jones covers.
Oh, okay.
He similar to the guy that drew Max. Sam Keith.
Yeah,
he's similar to Sam Keith a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay. I know the Batman you're talking about. Okay, and that makes sense. You say Sam Keith. Okay, now, and then the Robin. Is that a new Robin? I'm not up to date on the Robin.
From the Dark Knight series, the Frank Miller Dark Knight series, Robin was a girl.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, I see. Okay, just surprised. Like I only kind of know vintage comic books, so this is all new to me.
It was back in the 80s.
I know. I don't know how
that one was from the 80s.
I don't know how I missed that. So wait, what was Robin's name?
Carrie Kelly is her name.
Oh, okay. Dude, this is completely new to me. I don't know how I missed this.
If you like, I have the trade paperback. I want to read Dark Knight because I know that's one of his better works. That and did Frank? He didn't do Miracle Man. I think that was Alan Moore. But those are like some of the better known stories of the 80s. But as I was leafing through the pages, seeing blonde-haired Robin, and I was like, this doesn't look right. Did they just make him more feminine looking? And I didn't read far enough through to see what the deal was. But that was the Robin just in that series, the Dark Knight, and then the Dark Knight Rises. There was 3 different series, right?
Yes, there was 3.
Okay.
I can't remember. I think the 3rd one was just Dark Knight 3 or something like that, but there's been 3 different ones.
But that
Wait,
was the
so
only time that the female Robin was in. She's just in those 3.
Yeah, she hasn't been back as Robin since. She made a cameo in I forget if it was Batman and Robin. It was Tim Drake was Robin at the time, and she made a cameo in whatever series. It was a couple of years ago, so it's pretty recent. She made a cameo, but she was just like dressed as Robin for like a Halloween party. But other than that, they haven't really done anything else with her
Hmm,
character.
interesting.
look at that. I learned something brand new.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So go ahead, JP.
No, I just say that's just a good, well-known series, but it's not like no one really talks about that Robin. Like I didn't even know it till I just leafed through the
Yeah.
pages. You know,
Like you hear about that storyline all the time, and that's why I was
But-
like, wait, what?
how do we? I just what I mean. How do we never hear about the female Robin? That'd have been the biggest part of that because that's such a change from the normal
Oh yeah,
Dark Knight. So I'm
exactly.
just
Yeah.
surprised I never had clarification that it was. So you clarified it for me today, but I know the pictures, so I didn't realize that was female Robin because like I said, no one ever said that. You know, so
Yeah.
Sophie, I chuckled to myself, and I'm sure JP did when you say you grew up with the Avengers movie. So I think you're probably half the age of the two of
Yeah.
us here.
Yep.
Yes.
So that makes me think. So you've never really had a break with comic. You kind of straight through. So I'm curious, when you were like in high school and middle school, even, were you kind of solo in the comic interest, or did you have other friends? I'm kind of curious about that. Or were you just like, this is my thing? Like, does that make sense?
I had a few friends that were into them. Most of the, kids I went to school with, like, we all watched the movies and stuff, whether we were, big fans of the comics or not. But I always made sure to tell people who were like, oh, that last Avengers, movie was great. It'd be like, I was reading the comics before the movies came out. I just want you guys to know that. So I definitely had some friends. I would talk to them about the movies and comics and stuff. But I think the person I've talked to most about comics my whole life has just been my dad, because he's like got this just infinite amount of comic knowledge, and I very much hope to be like that one day, because you'll mention something that happened, he'll be like, oh yeah, I think that was in Batman 286 from 1977. I'm like, how did you know that? Like, that's crazy to me. So
Your
I
dad's
think,
like one of those guys that, like, you play a song and they're like, they named the record and when it was released.
yes, exactly. So I think just like I had a few friends I talked to, but like me and my dad were always talking about comic books.
Was your dad a collector or just a reader?
So he was a collector for a while. He had a huge collection. Every time I pick up a new comic, he's like, oh yeah, I remember when I had 3 of
That's
those.
what I was
Or, like,
wondering
I had
about. Yeah.
2 copies, but he sold his collection back when I think I was either a baby or a toddler. It was a while ago. So he sold it all off, but he has recently gotten back into comic collecting, which has been really fun, because we'll go to comic shops or like little trade shows and stuff together and look for comics.
Got it. And then is your sister into it at all?
Viv is kind of getting into it. Her interests are more in like anime and like video games and stuff like that. But she's also been a very big a She-Hulk fan. So she liked the show and everything, but she wanted to read all of the comics. So she's got some of the older ones, like that original series, and has been reading those. So that's very fun.
Got it. So I like it. It's a whole family event. JP and I,
It is.
It's just us solo. Our wives could not care less. So
nope. Nor do our kids care less about it.
yeah. Well, I'm hoping mine will get into it.
Yeah.
My one daughter does like Spider-Man, but she doesn't really. She has a stack of comics, but she's not reading them, and she wants me to hang them up on her wall. And but so she's
well,
into
that's like
Spider-Man.
she's inspired by you. You got them hanging up on your wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she wants me like glue them on the wall. I'm like, we're not gluing them, we're nailing them to the wall. We have to get something put up for that. It's like, oh, okay, she don't know any difference. So,
yeah. So Sophie, when you said you are hoping to collect the Spider-Man run, I can't remember. Did you say the original, like going all the way back to 1?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's ambitious.
Okay, and then you said you have a couple keys. So which keys do you have?
So, okay, so I've got I think the oldest one that I have right now is ASM 23, which is the third appearance of the Green Goblin, I believe.
Okay.
I just picked it up like 2 weekends ago or something like that, so it's very new to my collection. I have ASM, let's see, it's 25, which is technically the first cameo appearance of Mary Jane Watson, but her face is obscured in each panel that she's in, so you can't see her. Then I do have ASM 42, which is Mary Jane's first full appearance.
And that's what the line is in, right? You hit the jackpot
Yes.
tiger.
Yes, it's the very last panel on the very last page of that comic, and she gives that iconic line. I have ASM 59, which is her first cover appearance. And then I have a few different keys, like I've got 252, which is the
black suit.
First appearance of the black suit there. It's not ASM, but I do have Secret Wars number 8 as well. And then of course, now that you guys have asked, I don't remember all of the keys I have, but I've been focusing a lot.
Where are you capping this? Like, is it end at 300? Is it end at 500?
300 is the goal right now, and then this year my main goal is to focus on like the lower issues, like underneath 100, just see how many I can kind of find and get, and then I'll go from there, because anything above 100 is a lot easier to find. So those are
well, it's not that like right it's now. Not necessarily, it's a function of also like cost, like under 100.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
it's pretty pricey.
Is
for sure.
Does grade matter to you, or do you like mid grade, low grade, fine?
For certain ones, I like having higher grades. Like 252 of mine is a very clean copy of it because I wanted a very clean copy of it. Like for instance, the ASM 25 that I have, a child named Kathy wrote all over the cover of it. She drew her name, she drew a flower on Spider-Man's butt, and then she drew a bunch of chains on it. But it was one that I really, really wanted, and I got it for such a good price. I'm like, I can always upgrade it later. So for some of the more expensive ones, I go for like a lower to mid-grade copy. But there's a few keys that I definitely seek out higher grades or graded copies of.
Are you solely a run collector then?
Not really. I do collect like some random covers that I like and such, but I've been trying to focus more on collecting runs or at least arcs of stories that I like.
Yeah, so you're going to go, I would suggest maybe going as far as you can go to 361, get your Carnage in there, or maybe 328 was the last McFarlane drawn book, art book. So, that's where, if you go a little above the 300, you got, a bunch of great books in that McFarlane run. So,
right.
But I mean, you said you liked Red Goblin. Isn't that like 700 or something like that's his first appearance? Or like 650? I don't know.
Something like that. It's no, now that you've asked, I don't remember. But it is like very, very far.
It's very far into that.
I mean, you can never go wrong with any Amazing Spider-Man book. You find them anywhere in the wild. Even for $5 or something for that. Like I completed the Spectacular Spider-Man run 1 to 101, and that took me took me about maybe a year looking through that, because my son bought me a stack of them for Christmas, and there's probably 8 or 10 of them in there, and I realized I have spec number 1. I had the spot keys that were in the movie, it's from the what's it called, Spider-Verse movie. So I'm like, I think I could probably get 100 pretty easily. And it wasn't that easy to get them, because some of those are keys that you're like, I don't want to spend $60 on a first appearance of Cloak and Dagger, but
exactly.
just to finish the run, I got some bad copy, low grade copies, but I got it. But going Amazing Spider-Man would be that first 50 would be almost impossible, without spending.
It's
what do we
tough
say?
For sure.
25 grand, and then you said no, it wouldn't be 25 grand.
I mean, it's just it'd be expensive. I mean, I'm just curious, like, what is your kind of like view in terms of like, is that like a 5-year goal? Is that a 10-year goal? Is this just an ongoing goal?
It's like a lifetime goal until it's complete. It's like I'm not in any rush to do it. It's just eventually I'd love to be able to say like, yeah, I've got the entire Amazing Spider-Man run.
Well, and then if you get 1 to 300, you gotta get AF-15. So I mean, just tack that on the goal.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
As someone that kind of grew up on the Avengers movies, therefore, I'm assuming the MCU is probably very
Mhm.
near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite MCU movies?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Man, it's kind of it's hard to choose because I have a lot of very specific memories attached to them just because, I was so young, so they were associated with a lot of different things. But the Avengers movies themselves, I absolutely loved. I remember I really liked Captain Marvel because I had just gotten into reading her books when that movie came out. It was like a couple months into reading like the first one, and so I loved that movie. I thought it was great. But some of the older ones, the Captain America movies were my favorite, some of my favorites because my sister really, really loved them. There's a story that my family loves to tell. In one of the movies, Captain America kisses, oh, what's her name?
The blonde
Uh,
chick.
yeah, exactly. I can't remember her name, but he kisses her, and we look over at Viv in the movie theater, and Viv's just looking disgusted at the TV show because it's like Captain America is mine,
I was gonna say,
like
did she
so.
like the movies or did she like Chris Evans? Was my question's gonna be.
She loved Captain America. Like she even collects some of the books too. She loved that character, loved those movies. So it's like I have such very specific like favorite moments from all of those movies. It's just like it's so hard to pick a favorite for
I was
all
gonna say
of
last
them.
weekend I went to Emerald City Comic Con out here, and Chris Evans was one of the celebrity guests there.
Yeah.
But it was if you wanted to take 2 photos or you can get 2 autographs, it was $260. I was like,
Oh wow.
"Damn."
Holy crap.
Yeah, and I mean, it
Yeah.
sold out like that, so, I
Oh,
mean,
I
there
bet.
she's not alone, she's gonna have to fight for him, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
what do you is there any upcoming movies that you're looking forward to right now, or what do you think?
I'll be 100% honest. I haven't completely caught up. I'm not completely caught up with the MCU right now just because they were pushing out so much stuff and I've been extremely busy with work and stuff and I'm not 100% caught up especially with like the TV shows and everything. But I think the Deadpool and
Yeah.
Wolverine
I think
trailers
it's what
look pretty cool.
looking forward to that one,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm excited to watch that one. But truthfully, I can't think of any of the other movies that are coming out that I'm like really racing to see or anything.
I imagine, like, kinda your experience with Avengers is kinda similar to probably, like, JP and I's experiences as kids watching Star Wars movies, right? Like, they're just
Yeah.
such a part of your childhood. Are you, excited at all about since you're a DC fan as well, like, what are your thoughts? Did you like DC movies? Do you like where it's going or what's hoping to happen?
Um, I haven't been a fan of the DC movies that
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
put
they're not
out
good. Outside of
recently. I
Batman.
mean, yeah, the Batman was really, really good. I actually
Oh,
liked it
Dark
a
Knight.
lot more than I thought I was going to. Um, but other than that, other than I think like the Snyder cut of Justice League, I mean, that was pretty good,
The
but
4 hour cut.
yeah, like the super, super long one. But anything outside of that, it's been kind of disappointing. But I'm hoping if
Mhm.
they take a break and revamp it, maybe we'll get some good DC movies. I mean, that's what I'm hopeful for. I think as is everyone else. But I remember even as a kid, like people would ask me, "Oh, like what kind of comics are you into?" And I'd be like, "Well, I like Marvel movies." During that one little phase, I was like, "Well, I like Marvel movies, but I prefer DC comics." But I've never said I prefer DC movies. So
Yeah,
I think that kind of sums up my feelings on those.
Now, how
yeah.
about the Teen Titans show on HBO Max? Did you watch that?
I have watched some of it. I haven't watched all of it. I am really bad about finishing TV shows. I will start one, get 2 seasons in, and then I'll switch to another one, 2 seasons of that, maybe 3 seasons of the next one, and I just like never finish it. So I've seen
Yeah.
some of it, and what I saw was pretty good, but
Yeah.
I never finished that one.
We watched that. I thought that one was it was a pretty good series because I never followed the Netflix Marvel shows.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
watched Punisher, but I didn't watch Daredevil till recently. I just was always the movies were the canon because
Yeah.
anything like Star Wars, going back to that, Star Wars was canon in movies, but anything the books that were written were not canon. So I kind
Right.
of strayed away from cartoons and movies or TV shows because so much change happened because the characters weren't the same. Um, so it's just hard to maintain continue. What is the word?
Continuity.
Continuity, you know. So, but now I get into a couple of them here because we're ran out of content for a while there, and I got into some of the shows, and I'm like, oh, these are pretty good, and they do kind of follow along a little bit. Marvel, especially, is very good at following along on the continue. Can even say it now.
Continuity.
Continuity. Thank you. The continuity of it here, but DC was always all over the place, and that is going to be their big fix. Is going to be having Elseworlds, and then their regular continuity.
So, I will say on that note, the one DC show that I've watched is Superman and Lois, and I really enjoyed it. And then they now have decided to not continue it because they're going to have the new Superman movie, and they didn't want two Supermen. But I mean, they're doing that with Batman because you have the Robert Pattinson Batman, and they're going to have the James Gunn Batman. So,
right.
Sophie, tell us about your channel for those people that are watching that may not know your channel. Like, when did you start? Why did you start? And what is your channel about?
So I started back in, I want to say September of last year. So it's still relatively new. And I was just sitting in like my room one day and I had all these comics and everything I'd been collecting for a while. And I was watching Lunch Money Comics, I believe, and it occurred to me, I was like, it's so easy. Like I have all these comics and I do read them, but other than that, they just kind of like sit in my room on a shelf. And I was like watching him tell, a story probably about going to a flea market and then sitting there and showing us all the comics. I was like, I could probably do that too. Might as well try it out. Let's see what happens. So I, kind of came up with the name and everything, made my little setup here, decided what I wanted to do, and I just started making videos, and I didn't really expect it to go anywhere. I figured at most, I was like, if I had 30 subscribers, that would be fantastic, and I just wanted to make some videos for fun, see how it went, and I think I landed into like a great community and everything, and everyone is so nice and has been it's just absolutely wonderful. It's so much fun. But I do a lot of kind of like hauls basically from going, to shows or like what I get in the mail, showing stuff like that. I've recently started kind of like a new series. It's called Beyond the Long Box. So it's where I just like sit and I talk about something that's related to comics, but it's not necessarily me sitting down and showing comics. And I just did one it was the introduction. I plan to do some about like being a woman, in the comic collecting world. What's that like for me? I want to do some about like just different collecting things and diving into stories and characters and such.
I was gonna say you should dive into the female Robin, seeing as JP and I don't know about her.
That has been on the list of channel video ideas since the beginning, so it's one that I definitely need to make. And then I've recently tried doing more reviews of actual comics. I just did one on like the Jackpot one shot that they just did. So yeah, it's kind of just whatever I feel like filming that week, and then I upload it and see how it goes.
Nice.
How many videos are you doing? Are you doing 2 or 3 a week, or just once a week getting?
Right now it's just once a week. So right now I have my regular full-time job, like 40 hours Monday through Friday, and then I have a part-time job on the weekends, but that'll be over in April. So I've been extremely busy right now, plus all of the other things I do throughout the week. So there are some weeks where I don't post videos, but so it's just kind of like back and forth, but I try to aim for one video a week, and then hopefully after April I'll be able to do like one on Wednesday and one on Saturday, which is what I was doing a couple months ago and I really enjoyed, but I just haven't had the time to go back to that yet.
Can I ask, since, I mean, not to spoil the future episode that you'll make, but you said one of the things would be being a female in this hobby. What are some of the observations that you've had as a female? So tell us about that. I'm curious to hear your perspective.
Yeah. It's like for the most part, it's fine. It's like I really enjoy it, and there are people who definitely do take me seriously. And they know that I know what I'm talking about and stuff. But every once in a while, I'll be in a situation where it's kind of like if I was a guy, this would be different. Like one of the biggest examples, and I just experienced it recently because we went to a Comic Con a few towns over, but it was like in a mall. They had all of these booths set up with comic vendors and stuff. Sometimes I'll be standing there and I'll go through the long boxes and stuff. There will be a guy on one side and a guy on the other side, and the person who's running the booth will talk to him, skip over me and talk to the other guy, and I'll be completely ignored until I show them the comics that I want to buy, and I'm like, "Hey, I want to purchase these." And they're like, "Oh, okay." They'll tell me the total and that'll be that, but they'll be very friendly and talkative to everyone else at that stand. I cannot tell you the number of times I have been I have been told, and someone has tried to explain to me how a long box works. They'll be like, "So when you're looking through here, there's going to be these tabs and it's going to have something like Spider-Man,
You don't
and
even
then
need to
you're
be
going
in
to
comics
find."
to know how that works. Like,
I know, but I think it has happened at least like 6 or 7 times on different occasions of, "You're gonna find all those comics behind this tab," and I'm like, "Thank you, I know I've been doing this for a while." So there are little instances where it's a little like, it's kinda like I know what I'm doing, and sometimes people don't realize that or they don't trust that I know what I'm doing. And sometimes, you'll just it's weird because I love geeking out about the comics, that I have and that I want to buy and stuff. And then you'll sometimes have guys who want to, like explain the that comic or that thing, and it's like, yeah, I know that. That's what I'm trying to like talk about. And they're like, "Oh, Spider-Man, his alter egos, Peter Parker, and blah blah blah, and all this basic stuff." I'm like, "Yes, thank you. I know that." So it's like kind of rough not being taken seriously sometimes, but it's not all the time. There are definitely some great sellers out there, and then there's all of you guys. Like I said, I landed in a very great community who does take me seriously with like Mon Comics and What's on the Comic Rack and Lunch My Comics. All you guys are great. So I love hanging out with you guys. You guys know that I know what I'm talking about. So,
I was curious when you
you know.
said in like the experience when you were explaining, like if I was a guy, I thought you were gonna say if I was negotiating for this comic book, like if I was a guy, they would have, versus like as a
Yeah.
woman. So that does happen too then.
It is a little bit harder because I think a lot of the times they assume I don't know exactly what that comic would be worth or the significance of it or something, but it's also at the same time like if I'm buying it, obviously I have some interest in it, like you would think I would know what it is. But and like I said, it's definitely not everyone. There's just every once in a while you run into a seller who just does not believe I know what I'm doing.
Well, JP and I always talk about this thing that we don't understand when you go to these shows, you have these just like old curmudgeons that are running these booths. And I'm like, why are you guys in comics? Like, this is not like they build like a wall almost. They're like, don't come back here. They're grumpy as hell.
Exactly.
Those guys think everybody's dumb.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
Oh,
it's much
yeah.
of a female thing,
But
they
like
just
if the
think
whole
everybody's
like
dumb.
explaining how a long box works, that would be infuriating. Like, I mean, you can
It
be you
it
don't need to
is.
know what comics are to know like that's like just any filing system in the world works that way.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, it's like I'll already be going through the box and looking for what I'm looking for, and they'll stop me and explain how it works. I'm like, I know. And like I said, it's happened a lot. So I don't know what it is.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
A little bit.
that's no good. That sucks. But
But some of those you've seen Big Bang Theory, correct? You saw that. You ever watch the sitcom?
Yeah, yeah.
All those guys were just nerdy and didn't know how to talk to anybody normally. So it
This
could be
is true.
that too.
yeah,
That's probably most of what it is.
yeah. They're like, let me talk to this girl. What do I talk about? Let me talk about tabs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's you never know what
What?
you're going to get there. So I've had
Yeah.
enough of my fights with people at shows. Rohan knows I have no charm apparently, and I just fight with people, But I get the
Every time
commercial.
JB goes to a con, it comes back with this new story about how he's butting heads with somebody. So
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I don't have the same luxury. Well, I'm close to Pittsburgh, but
Mhm.
the shows like I don't want to drive 3 hours or 2 hours for a show all the time,
Right.
and and it becomes the same dealers at every show. So if you're not friendly with them anymore because you had a run in because I get stuff where I'd say I have a good comic collection, but I'm not getting rid of my favorite comics, obviously. So I
Yeah.
have doubles or things that I found I can trade, and I get people that go, "Oh, I have this. I have this. What? Bring me something good." I'm like, "What do you know? I'm not bringing you my good stuff. I'm trying to trade the stuff I don't want," and they just give grief, and so I get tired of seeing the same guys. So I'm trying to look for different places to go to show wise that may be making a week out of it. You have what, C2E2 near you, right?
Yeah,
That's
C2 and then Fan Expo.
okay. So maybe I'll try Cleveland. Maybe I'll try further Harrisburg,
Yeah.
Philadelphia, and see if I can meet some better, more
People
cool
that
people.
don't recognize the grumpy JP getting close.
Grumpy old the curmudgeon, JP the curmudgeon.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. What other do you have any other thoughts or goals of what you want to do with the channel, or any thoughts long term?
Um, just keep, as long as it doesn't feel like a chore, I want to keep, uploading videos and I think chatting with people is so fun, like reading all of the comments that people leave and stuff and being able to respond and them telling me what they've recently picked up or what they collect or their thoughts on, the books that, I was talking about. I absolutely love that. I love getting to know other people who are also in the hobby. So yeah, as long as it doesn't feel like it's, work and I'm not dreading doing it, I plan to keep the channel going for quite a while.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. As long as I'm having fun, we'll keep doing it. And the moment it doesn't, that's kind of when you
Yes,
switch away from it. So
exactly.
yeah, yeah. What other? So besides, I want to go back to collect a little bit. What other
Yeah.
current goals do you have besides the ASM run? Like what other?
Let's see. I have really been wanting to collect like the first appearance and some of the first series of Captain Britain. I have no idea why. It's such a strange, like random character, but I saw those books and I was
Is
like,
this
you know what,
because you're a
that's a
Henry
fun
Cavill
goal.
fan?
yes.
No, it's not. It's just it's very random. Like I saw the books, I was like, that could be fun. It'll be an interesting goal. And they were originally only published in the UK, so they're very hard to find
Watch,
here in the US without.
JP's going to get his Captain Britain one. I guarantee it. Now
Oh,
you
of
said it.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew.
But nice. Yes, definitely jealous over here.
I found this at a
But
paper show.
wow.
There's a
Nice.
paper show that has and again anything made with paper, baseball cards, newspapers,
Mhm.
magazines, and I was going through a long box. Luckily, no one tried to tell me how to do it the right way, and that was sitting in there, and it has the free mask in here,
Oh,
so
nice.
it's complete. It was $40, and it's probably
Wow.
I would say it's an 8.0 or maybe a 9.0. I think it's in pretty good shape. So,
Nice.
Wait, so
but
Definitely a good pickup.
if you're a Captain Britain fan, then did you also then like Psylocke?
I so I haven't read much of like X-Men or like
Oh,
Excalibur or anything like that. Actually I haven't read any X-Men. And I don't collect it. It's just something I haven't gotten into. But yeah, it was just a random thing. There's no explanation for it. I was just like I want these books. So
but they're cool looking
you
I
just
books
can
because
find them.
they're in the
the
UK. They have a weird, they almost like feel like they're paper, like newspaper,
Yeah.
and it's fun, red like in full color with the OUR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a different looking book. But this one, the number one obviously is worth some money, but then that's number 6 is Psylocke's first appearance through X-Men. So that's like I think that's the only two
Gotcha.
in that run that's probably the most money. I don't know if there's any other ones in that run that are worth a bunch,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a cool run you don't see. Like you said, you know, I could see being
Exactly.
in where you're at, you're close to Canada, so you could have a lot of Canadian, price variance. But where we're at, you're not getting any, pence variance. I don't think you have one, Rohan, right? Or you got rid of it.
oh, no, I don't have it anymore.
This is my only pence variant. Everything
Mm,
else is all US stuff. So it's just something
right.
different. So it's cool. It's a cool little
Yeah.
side hobby. If you find them, it's just like it's like a needle in a haystack. If you find those, I think that'd be the coolest
Oh
part
yeah,
about it. Yeah.
for
Uh,
sure.
when you're going out with your dad and you guys are collecting, I'm curious, does he have a separate collection and you have a separate collection, or do you guys collection, is it a joint thing?
So we have two different collections because I focus on a lot of Spider-Man stuff, as you guys know, and he collects a lot of Wolverine. That's his favorite, and then a lot of X-Men and stuff like that. So he's
Wait,
a
yeah,
big
he got
X-Men
into
and
X-Men.
Wolverine.
He got into.
Yes,
How have you never read X-Men?
I don't know. It's just one that I've never picked up and read. It's eventually I do want to get some of like the omnibus or trade paperbacks and go back and read X-Men. But yeah, it's just one I have
Wait,
yet
so
to
then,
pick up.
when growing up, when he was like, read this one next, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he ever recommended any X-Men to me. It was mostly Batman and stuff, and there became a certain point where he eventually knew what I liked. So he was recommending me ones that, he was like, "Oh, you might not be a fan of this one, but hey, here's this new Batman one, read this." So, yeah, for some reason X-Men never came up. I might need to ask him about that actually, because now that you've mentioned it, it is a little bit weird.
Yeah, and I feel
Question
like
question I have for that is, okay, so you grew up with the Avengers movies, like we grew up with Star Wars, and there's
Yes.
people that I grew up with that never saw a Star Wars movie, and if you ask them to go back and watch it, they think like like you got something wrong with you. Um, Going back to watch the X-Men movies, which are 10 years older than the Avengers movies, have you watched those, and what do you think about that? Is that
I have seen snippets of them. I haven't seen them in full, but I have seen parts of them, but I would totally go back and watch them.
I mean, have you even
I
like gone back and seen like the 1989 Batman or like the Christopher Reeve Supermans?
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Okay.
Yeah.
because that was like after Batman 89, there was nothing good until Spider-Man 2001 came out, and then X-Men
Oh, yeah.
followed that, and they were
Mhm.
had about 3 or 4 good movies. Fantastic Four had a decent movie. You
No,
know,
Fantastic Four was not decent. It was
it was
bad.
decent. Hey, that's all we had.
It is
I was
all we had, but
excited.
it was not good.
I don't know, my son just watched 1 and 2, and he was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." I'm like, "Just wait till they bring him to the MCU, and then you're gonna see what cool is when they do it the right way." But yeah, the X-Men movies, but they just had so many of them that they kind of got watered down. But your
Mhm.
X-Men 1 and 2 were the 2 best ones, right?
I think
Rohan, you
X-Men
thought.
2, I still think it's awesome. Yeah.
I thought that The Last Stand wasn't as good. They just talked about it recently that the effects of bringing the Golden Gate Bridge over to Alcatraz was like the most expensive part of that movie, and they didn't even use the whole thing of it, and they spent a third of the budget on that whole bridge movement.
So Sophie doesn't look like she's seen the last stand. The look she's given
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
No, I have not.
But if you watch those, again, I don't know if that's a good way to go back and get into the X-Men because, they're not really like comic accurate
Right.
in those.
So we just are in X-Men 3, Magneto essentially rips out the Golden Gate Bridge and flies it to. And
Okay,
if
gotcha.
you notice in the Deadpool trailer for Deadpool 3, in like some of the
Mhm.
scenes, you'll see the Golden Gate Bridge behind you, and that's like the Easter egg for the reference to X-Men 3.
Gotcha. Gotcha,
Yeah,
it
but
makes sense.
that was I don't know. I like that movie, but I don't think as many people. The first 2 were the best ones, but
Yeah.
you know,
That
I like that.
and Days of Future Past, I think, is really good too.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we had, and if you were a fan, I watched almost all of them, and then I kind of got out of it, and I didn't watch all the Avengers movies until probably when I saw bits and pieces of them, but then whenever I saw the whole thing combined in Endgame, I was like, this has got to be the best movie I've ever seen. The way they put them all together like that, so you
Yeah.
really thrust me
Sophie,
back
I'm
into it.
curious. Talk about going back. Since you're a both Batman and Spider-Man fan, did you ever watch like the animated series of either from the 90s?
So I have watched the Batman one, but
Oh,
I
it's
haven't
so
watched the
good.
Spider-Man one. But me and my sister talk sometimes about going back through and watching like all the different Spider-Man animated series, just like in order of when they came out. So eventually we'll probably do that. But I have
Yeah.
definitely seen the Batman
The
one.
Batman, I mean, like the Batman, X-Men, and Spider-Man were like the three. Like Batman though
Yeah.
is the GOAT. Like that's the best
Oh,
cartoon.
for sure.
I think I
Yeah.
like the X-Men one better, and then I didn't like that Spider-Man one. I mean, I didn't watch it. I like the original Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends
Oh,
because
yeah.
that one was like that's vintage. I remember, it just takes me back 40 years ago. Geez, watching that, like, there's a couple cool. there's one Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. I can't remember the number of it, but it had a very similar character to what I saw in the cartoon way back when. And it was this guy that basically came out of a video game and started the old Atari video games, you know, 2-dimensional looking whatnot. He comes out and he starts, you know, shooting lasers at people. And I was like, oh, that was the coolest thing in the world. And then I just found that comic recently and I was like, oh, this must be where they got the idea from. So
Nice.
yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, just because again we're going back, like we're like twice your age. When JP says something like Atari, I'm like, do you even know what Atari is?
I do know what Atari is because a while ago, I don't remember where they got it. My parents got one of like the new Atari gaming systems where you could go back and play all of the old games. So I do know what that is.
Do you play? What game do you play on that? Do you play Pitball?
Yes, and then bowling. Bowling was my favorite on there because I was so good at it. But the whole family would sit around and we would just like play all of the different games. It was very fun.
Yeah, I wish I had a vintage Atari, but anymore now. Even though I have an old wood grain TV in my basement, it still doesn't have the attachments to connect the Atari to it. So finding a one like that's like you have all the games already on it, the new ones that they make. I have a Nintendo one and a Sega. I need an Atari so I can play those games. So yeah.
Are you a big video gamer then, Sophie?
I'm not really. The rest of my family gets pretty into it, but I just haven't. I have a problem with when I sit down to do a video game. I'm always thinking like I could be doing something else that's productive, and then it's like a whole cycle. So I have not really ventured into the world of video games very much.
I was gonna say maybe it's like TV shows. You start playing it, and then you're like, I'm not gonna finish this.
Yes, exactly. I think I played like a little bit of the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, and that was about it for me.
That's the one that just came out, right? For PS5.
No, that one was Spider-Man 2, and then the Miles Morales one came out a few years ago.
Okay. I had an Atari, had the Super Nintendo, and then PlayStation 2, and we played that in college. We would play, well, we had GameCube, so we played GoldenEye, which was the James Bond movie. We played Madden, and then we played Grand Theft Auto, and then I didn't play any more games ever again. Like, I have the systems, but I did the same thing that you just said. I'm like, I could be doing something else besides sitting here playing games, you know?
Exactly.
But it was a big part of when I was a kid, but I have not got back into it. I've tried. I just can't do it. So I know what you're coming from.
Yeah.
Rohan, you don't play any games anymore at all, or?
Not video. I played. I was big into video games as a kid, but like it literally stopped at like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Like I do remember like playing GoldenEye, but I didn't really care for it. And then I even played a little bit of Halo maybe in high school, but I never got into that. So like essentially,
if you weren't good at GoldenEye, then it wasn't fun. If you played people that you just shoot you all the time, it was annoying as hell.
Yeah, it was honestly like the transition from when games just went one directional to 360. That's kind of where I was like, I'm out. out.
The coolest game I remember before GoldenEye was that Star Fox game for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, Star Fox. Yeah, exactly.
That was pretty cool. But yeah, no, it was. I think it's funny that the games were a big part of our childhood, but they didn't have the movies. And now you got games and movies that are getting people into the hobby in a sense because they're seeing the stuff on screen. And that's brought me back into collecting because of the movies. I mean, I was not an Iron Man fan until I watched, I liked Iron Man, but no one plays him better than Robert Downey Jr. I think that was the most clutch acting that they did, that really just catapulted that whole series, the whole Marvel series. They wouldn't have been as successful without that. And I think that's what made me an Iron Man fan for the first time was that. So, the movies, luckily Spider-Man came back in, Avengers, all that stuff that got you back into it. So hopefully DC will do the same for you here soon with James Gunn. I think that's probably a pretty good bet to make that James Gunn will do a good job with the Gunn universe.
That kind of
Lobo.
made me think. So obviously, again, like JP and I being a lot older, a lot of the guys that we associate with that are in comics we grew up on it, had our time away, and now have gotten back into it as life has kind of evolved. Being kind of young and into comics, do you find a lot of people come to you being like, hey, I kind of want to get into comics, where should I start? Do you get a lot of that?
I've had a few people ask me, not too much. I've had a few friends who have been, like, ask about that stuff. I've got a few coworkers who are like, I have some really old comics. You should tell me how much those are worth. And I'm like, you know what? Sure, I'll look at your collection. But yeah, it's if anyone wanted to ask me where to start and stuff like collecting now, I'd love to help them out. But yeah, I've had a few people ask, but not too many.
I'd be curious. What would you tell them? Like where to start?
Oh, I would say, "Come over to my house, let's go through my collection." As long as I, like, knew them, I'll be like, "Let's go through my collection, we'll see what you like, you can borrow some of my graphic novels and stuff, and then from there, you can decide if you wanna go vintage, like Silver Age and stuff, or if you wanna go modern, and then we'll start collecting from there, and I'll get them totally hooked on the hobby."
That makes
Nice.
what size is your collection? Like, are you someone that like is it? Are we talking about large collection or what size is
Um,
that?
I don't know how many comics, like, I have in general, but, like, I just reorganized all my comics, and I have
Did you reorganize
7.
them because you learned how the tabs worked at the cons?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I was recently informed on how to do that. So,
Yeah.
but I've got 7 short boxes now, and then, like, a bunch of displayed books on the wall, and then, a bunch of piles just kind of invading
Okay,
my
so you're
desk
you're
that I need to
breaking
do
the
videos on.
you're breaking the 1,000 comic mark. Then we're talking.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's big compared to my collection. So no, right on.
Well,
Yeah.
trying to finish those runs, you're gonna have a lot of books there that, you know, that take up long boxes. I mean, I have one long box. Well, is it a short box? I think it's a short box full of the spec Spider-Man. I mean, just trying to fit them
Yeah,
all in there, and they start to get crammed in. You need the long boxes, and it adds up. If you're gonna
exactly.
have 328 Amazing Spider-Mans, you're gonna need a long box, a couple of them for that. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
now,
Sophie,
have
yeah,
you
this
on
was
your YouTube channel, which I just subscribed? So I was
oh,
gonna
there you
say
go,
on your
JP.
YouTube channel, I just subscribed, so you get another subscriber there.
Nice.
But do you? I noticed that like when I post something on Instagram or some of the videos that I do, there's a few comments. Rohan, you get a shit ton of comments on some of the stuff that you put on IG, and I think some of our videos. Do you get a lot of comments on the videos like that, interacting, questioning,
Oh,
and just
yeah.
not anyone asking you dumb questions, but just like good comments to keep, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. I definitely get a lot more on YouTube than I do on Instagram, but I'm also not as consistent on Instagram. It's if I remember to post on there. But yeah, with YouTube, I have people who I think have commented on every single video that I've put out, or they're very regular about like when I put out a new video, they'll watch it, they'll comment, tell me what they think. And I think it's great. I've got a lot of people that I enjoy, talking with about what they're collecting and what they thought of the video. So I get a decent amount on there.
That's good.
Well,
I
that's
think
that's
the only
interesting.
person I get that says anything is Dan. Dan, X-Men.
Yes, Dan's the ultimate fan.
He's consistent every time, and then I get a few. I got one bad comment. Do you get any bad comments at all from people? Like someone's
Honestly, I don't
saying
I
something
don't
mean?
think I've gotten one yet.
I
Mine
mean,
have actually been pretty nice.
I I was actually kind of chuckling when you were telling the story about like telling you how a long box works. JP just did a video of like digging through a basement. Some guy's like, "Those are cool books, but man, you were doing an awful job handling them," or something like that.
Yeah.
He said.
Some guy, he said it was very difficult to watch you handle those books.
Yeah,
And I was like, you
yeah. There's like
respond back with, "Thanks for watching. I'll do a better job next time." But
and then the
Yeah.
other good one was the other good one was those aren't grails. We talk about grails or something like that.
yeah. So I mean, there's all kind of people in there, and there's like saying those same guys that tell you what to do about long boxes or give you shit at a show are the same ones who watch, I guess, my videos and Mike's videos from Lunch Money. So
Yeah.
he gets a lot of rough comments himself, and he really gets upset with us sometimes. I have to say, makes you laugh. But no, I just subscribed and looking forward to watching some of the videos. I've been running out of content to watch myself, so I'm looking forward to some new stuff to watch. So
Nice. I expect you to comment on every single one.
I'm going
All
Every
to.
nice
single
things.
video.
No mean
What
comments
is
from
that
you.
long box?
Yeah. How does that tab
let
system
me
work?
explain a long box to you. And I'm like, great.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like if JP does it, maybe edgy Sophie comes back out of the woodwork, and that could be a whole new series for you on the channel.
Possibly.
It's awesome.
It's a good idea.
Sophie, this has been a lot of fun having you on, getting to know you. Why don't you tell everyone kind of where they can find you, all that good stuff before you head out of here.
Yes. YouTube, it's just Jackpot Comic Talks. And Instagram is the exact same, just at Jackpot Comic Talks. Like I said, I try to upload once a week for YouTube, and then Instagram, I try to post when I upload a video. Sometimes I forget to, but I also post a lot of like different random things on there. Like I'll shout out sellers sometimes when I get new books and stuff like that, and like, hey, I went to a comic show, videos coming up next week and stuff. So lots of little things on Instagram, but the name is the same for all of my stuff.
Right on. Yeah, and we'll put all the links and things like that in the show description here. But yeah, thanks for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. We'll have to have you on again down the line when more stuff has come out and get the update on all the things and see how you're doing on that Spider-Man run.
Yes.
Yeah, if you get, I'd like to hear if you get a nice good key, an early like number 2 through 5 or something. That'd be pretty cool.
Right.
I'd love to hear about it. So yeah, no.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody, make sure you like, comment, nice comments only, and we subscribe. And
maybe some of Sophie's consistent commenters can comment here too.
Yes.
Send them this way. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Sophie, thanks for being on today. We will see everybody on the next interview. Peace out.
Lay it.